For the first time in more than 5 years, Saskatchewan will have an MP in the government. Conservatives won the other 13 seats in our province. Here to break down the election and the reaction from the legislature, we're joined by our weekly political panel. Murray Mandryk writes a political column in the Regina Leader-Post and the Saskatoon Star-Phoenix. And we're also joined by Jeremy Symes, who covers the legislature for the Canadian Press. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
Good morning, Murray.
Good morning.
Jeremy, we heard from Scott Moe, the Premier, on Tuesday, and he had a contentious relationship, let's just say that, with the former Prime Minister. What did he have to say about the election results?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a contentious relationship with the Trudeau government. I think it's fair to say he wasn't super happy with the outcome. He did endorse Pierre Poilievre the week before the election, but Mark Carney did win on Monday night for the Liberals, and Moe seemed to offer a bit of change in tone, I think, being a part of that press conference. He congratulated Carney for the win. He says he's going to invite Carney to Saskatchewan for a meeting to talk about areas of importance to Saskatchewan, especially those economic issues. And Moe also said he wants to work alongside Carney on those issues to build Saskatchewan's economy. But there's a bit of caveats there that Moe did talk about, and he says it's really up to Carney to deliver on that, make those policy changes, show that action to get Saskatchewan to a place that he says would be in a better spot. Now, on election night, Carney did talk about how tough it was for Liberals in Alberta and Saskatchewan. 65% of the vote in this province went to the Conservative Party. Carney also talked about creating an energy corridor, making Canada an energy superpower while fighting climate change. And Moe said he really liked that energy superpower idea. It's something he can get behind. He also said Carney's an Edmonton Oilers fan. Moe's also an Edmonton Oilers fan.
Loves that.
Love that. Maybe that's a good starting point for both of them. On Pierre Poilievre losing his seat, Moe said, that's up to Poilievre in terms of what he's going to do. Maybe he'll run in a by-election. And then on the NDP vote collapsing, Moe also said that was just a sign of the Liberals fully taking over that party.
Interesting. And Murray, we've been in many of those press conferences where the Premier was taking shots at the former Prime Minister. Unlike other premiers, some have endorsed leaders in the past and some endorsed Pierre Poilievre. And as Jeremy mentioned, Moe was one of those that endorsed him. He says he's open to working with Mark Carney, but as Jeremy outlined, there are some caveats there. What are you expecting from Premier Moe, and what have you seen so far as signs that this could be different or maybe a little bit different?
Well, I'm getting very much mixed signals. The Scott Moe at the press conference was perfectly reasonable in doing his job, I believe, as a premier, thinking, okay, let's hit the reset button. Let's look at ways where even if we don't agree politically, and obviously they don't. Obviously, Scott Moe is not happy with the election result and electing another Liberal government, as he put, a million miles away from Shelbrook. But Scott Moe at the press conference talked about needing to work with the federal government. And we have a plethora of problems. We have canola, 100% tariffs from China. We have problems with Bill C-69 in terms of the building of the pipeline. The carbon tax is gone, but there's certainly lingering effects of it that are problematic. We have a huge problem related to how do we just simply light our house if we can't burn coal. That goes back to obviously a Stephen Harper promise, but that's another thing. These are all legitimate things that Scott Moe raises and a Saskatchewan premier should be working on. However, the problem is the political one. He actually married into the Conservative Party with his endorsement of Poilievre, and that certainly satisfied a huge voice in not only just Saskatchewan, but outside Saskatchewan. I think the ground zero of it is now the Alberta legislature, and Premier Daniel Smith there reconstructing their referendum legislation so that it might be easier to have a referendum in Alberta on separation. This is a huge issue, and I think we'll probably get into it in a moment. But that's Scott Moe that can't seem to find the balance between basically saying, I am a Canadian and I absolutely denounce Western separatism, and the Scott Moe says, I am a proud Saskatchewan person promoting Saskatchewan and dealing with Saskatchewan issues. It's where he's always had a problem. And I think he had a huge problem with that again this week post-election. And I'm really intrigued as to see how all this plays out.
Yeah, if you read, just have to take a second to read some of the replies to Scott Moe's posts to see that there is, a lot of anger out there and people calling for, things like separation and things like that. Murray, when it comes to Mark Carney, how does he respond to this from Scott Moe? And that the list there's a laundry list of things, but how does he respond to those asks from the premier?
By dealing with the stuff that Scott Moe says must be dealt with. C-69 must be revisited in one form or the other, just because in principle it's become problematic. The carbon tax still has issues to deal with. The number one issue right now for us in Saskatchewan is the tariffs and how to address the tariffs. The fact that Pierre Poilievre also supported 100% tariffs on Chinese EV vehicles is now problematic, and I think there has to be a recognition on the part, and a lot faster on the part of the federal Liberal government, that we have issues and problems out here. That's the way to address alienation and separation. And you'd hope under those circumstances that that's satisfactory to the leadership of Western Canada or the Prairies, which is Scott Moe and Daniel Smith. I'm not so sure it will be, because Scott Moe's stock and trade has been fighting the federal Liberals, and whoever replaces Scott Moe will probably pick up that cudgel for the next decade or so. And the problem seems to be even worsened in Alberta. So I don't know if this is the ultimate solution, but it is certainly the start of a solution to deal with, I think, what the more serious problem is, which is the alienation separation issue. And I think you can just wedge a paper between the two notions because they're getting to be that close.
And Jeremy, when it comes to how this has played out in the legislature, what's been the reaction from the opposition? I know they're posing questions to the premier about some of the points that Murray's making.
Yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned, the rhetoric around Western separation is all over social media right now. You do see it. We had it talked about before the election. Before Election Day with Preston Manning, talking about a vote for Liberals being a vote for breaking up Canada. And then you have Danielle Smith, like Murray was saying, talking about making it easier for a referendum and stoking those flames, I guess. The opposition NDP has been questioning Moe about this for the past month, actually, about basically his loyalty to the country, whether it is Trump in the 51st state. But now this week, it was more on the lines of, okay, well, if a plebiscite were ever to come forward for a vote on Saskatchewan separating from Canada, would you, as Premier, support that? Would you allow that vote to go forward? Moe replied saying, well, I would allow that vote to go forward because this is our legislation. I'm not going to prevent the legislation from going forward, from people utilizing it. In Saskatchewan, I think it's 15% of the electorate needs to sign on to a plebiscite for it to go forward. So he's saying, I'm not going to prevent that from going forward. But he is also making it really clear that he's not interested in separation as well, that he wants Saskatchewan to work in a united Canada where Saskatchewan can have its economy grow. And he's hopeful that Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to participate in that, is going to be the lever that can get us to that point. So he also took some shots at the NDP for bringing this up. He's saying, listen, the opposition's the only party right now bringing up the separation talk. I'm not bringing it up. And he also accused the NDP of, not letting people have a say on this vote. Now, in response to that, Carla Beck and the NDP said, well, it's really disappointing Moe is saying this. There should not be a vote on Western separation. And yeah, she just doesn't think it's good for the country.
Murray, what do you make of that? Whether this is something that is valid for the NDP to bring up? Are they playing politics, or is it a legitimate question to raise to the premier?
The NDP are always playing politics. Oppositions always play politics. Of course, that's a situation. No, this is a legitimate issue for the NDP to bring up, and they are not the only voices. Scott Moe's problem goes back to COVID-19 and trying to placate the same voices that were disgruntled back then that have just moved on to other issues. And if it isn't sort of school change rooms and pronouns used in schools, it's alienation in the West. He made a huge mistake giving Nadine Ness and Unified Grassroots any kind of credibility, which he did during COVID. She is now one of the people leading the charge, and she'd be happy to hear that, I'm sure, because she loves the publicity. She represents no one. She can't get elected to anybody. They've just defeated the Saskatchewan United Party, which is basically was in line with more of these thought processes in terms of the anti-COVID, anti-vax alienation people that fed into that. So Scott Moe has to realize that this is not his base, that placating these people, he's still going to win his rural seats anyway, and it's not adding anything to the basket for Scott Moe. He needs to build support in that middle area, urban Saskatchewan, as Brad Wall used to call the suburban soccer moms and everything else. That's where he needs to grow his support base, and I don't think he fully recognizes that, because from what I saw in that scrum yesterday, his inability just to simply say, yeah, I condemn those trying to break up my country. That's an easy thing for a premier to say. He wouldn't say it. And I think we have to start raising questions as to, well, why won't you say it? If you have a party whose constitution says they support a strong Saskatchewan within a united Canada, you have to basically live by that. And as a premier, that is what your oath says. So please maybe send a more direct message to the people out there that don't get that we have to stay within the Canada. I can't speak for Alberta, but I find it so patently ridiculous that anybody would think that we would be better off by having a separatist movement, basically giving the signals that our economy isn't stable, that all the things that Scott Moe is working for shouldn't be built upon, because one of the things that is true is Mark Carney, I think, said in his letter to the premiers, we can't have 13 strong economies. We need one strong national economy, and Saskatchewan is a big part of that. Build on that part. Don't build on the separation negative part, which I think in some ways he is placating and maybe in some ways even feeding.
Thanks, Murray.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.